So the best thing about Suicide Squad is that it doesn't care. It doesn't care at all about anything other than entertaining you. So if you don't really know anything about any of these characters or anything like that, you're having a great action time. And if you do know about these characters, it's kind of all over the place, but I think a lot of it is just the fact that some of them are even in a movie. But I have a lot to say about this movie. I watched it this weekend. I finally got the new puppy to stop chewing on my leg for like a second. And just so you know, if you haven't watched it, I'm going to keep this video spoiler-free as best I can until the second half of the video. And then I'll give you a warning and I'll launch straight into spoilers completely. But immediately, the main takeaway from this is just fucking what? Like, I watched the movie and I was just immediately like, okay, that was a thing. But not in a bad way. You know, sometimes you watch a movie and you go, all right, that was a thing. This, I was like, all right, that was a thing. It seems like James Gunn really at this point definitely has a thing, a way of writing, a way of directing, a way of presenting, that this movie isn't necessarily like a Guardians ripoff or anything like that, but it's got that same confidence in the way the jokes are presented, in the way the action is presented, in the way it moves along, the way that music works with everything and just is actually really, really good. But I think what is refreshing about Suicide Squad and what has kind of resonated with a lot of people is the fact that like I said, it doesn't care about anything, and particularly it doesn't care about like setting up a universe or doing all these inside jokes and nods and stuff here and there. The movie's existence for some people is the inside joke, is the Easter egg, is the nod, and then for everybody else, it's just a crazy, ridiculous, weird, good time. And I love that, especially just with how it's paced. This movie, I guess, kind of like Birds of Prey, but way more here. The pacing is just nonstop and it never slows down. There are like two moments where the brakes are pulled for a second and there's some character building. One of them worked for me, one of them didn't. I'll talk about that in the spoilers. But other than that, it's just nonstop action and jokes and weird, dumb stuff. And I say that, there's people, when they hear dumb, they think it's a bad thing. And that can be. But when I say crazy, ridiculous, dumb, stupid, in this sense, I'm complimenting. I love when things go crazy and it doesn't care about anything. And it just feels like, and this movie really does, taking action figures and mashing them together. But the special thing about Suicide Squad is that it's digging from the bottom of the toy bin and pulling out these shitty old figures and mashing them together and they don't make sense. Just the way they present some of these characters, you know, you don't really have to know, I guess at all, you don't have to have seen the previous Suicide Squad movie to know what's going on here. They present the setup even way quicker and way more simple in this movie, and they just go from there. And I think it's important, and I think it's also a testament to like the direction and like the thought behind this movie is that it is, you know, mile-a-minute action and laughs and all that, yada, yada, yada. But it still manages to sell the heart. You know, by the end of the movie and things happen with characters, you feel it. When some character dies, you feel it. And I think that's impressive considering the movie barely takes a minute to slow down and build this stuff up. I think it's just a good indicator of it just being like a cohesive vision where this is like what they wanted to make from the beginning. This is what they set out to do. And watching this, man, all I kept thinking was like, damn, man, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, the previous one, which I thought there were some moments that were commendable in it, but a lot of people can't really argue that it was disjointed and it clearly had meddling from the studios and clashing creative visions. This movie feels like what that movie, at least one group of people were trying to make that previous movie. This movie is full confidence, and it's literally just them going, hey, James Gunn, do whatever you want. Where you had someone like David Ayer making the previous Suicide Squad movie, and I guess a different DC, different mindset at the time, where he wasn't able to do completely whatever he wanted. That's, of course, just me arm-sharing. Different things go on. Hundreds of people make every single movie, and things get way more complicated, but just on the surface, that's what I'm trying to say, is that this movie is confident in how it moves, in how it does things, and especially with the characters. So you have now a lot of people. You have Bloodsport, who Idris Elba is just awesome. I'm like a big fan of him, but they made Bloodsport awesome. And I think a lot of people, even me included, who didn't know too much about Bloodsport other than him just popping up occasionally, Bloodsport's really awesome. You have Ratcatcher, or technically Ratcatcher 2, and how they gave her some of the heart for this movie and like some of the actual character development. Also, Peacemaker. I think, if anything, I know I said this movie doesn't care about anything, building a universe or anything, but I think it did care a little bit about selling this new Peacemaker series that we know we're getting now, a TV series. So John Cena is awesome. I'm just also inclined to enjoy people like The Rock, like John Cena, just WWE superstars that end up becoming action stars. They know how to pick them. I don't know. But John Cena here was really great, but also there wasn't enough of him. And I'm so glad that they're making a show. Like, even just watching this movie, knowing that they were making a show, every minute of him was so great, so funny, so also over the top and gory and stupid that, like, I can't wait. And it almost makes me, like, just the attitude and the way they handled him, it almost makes me wish that they could make like a Duke Nukem movie, or like just that like overconfident, like macho bravado dumb brute guy where it's like just so satirical and so cynical and over the top. And the fact that they did it with someone like Peacemaker, who really in a lot of ways started out as just this like pulp old 60s comic thing that is just another of many characters that DC kind of bought smaller comic companies that used to just put out old weird sci-fi things. So he's one of those old staples that then kind of slowly morphed into something else, and they do it really well. Then you have someone like, I love the fact that Polka Dot Man is in this movie, probably like the most bottom of the barrel Batman villain, and it just works so well here with how he's portrayed. They also gave him a backstory, which I won't spoil here, but Polka Dot Man never really had a backstory. He was just Polka Dot Man. He was there and he was a meme, and he never really showed up. And when he was referenced by Batman fans, it was usually just a throwaway joke. This little backstory they gave him, you hear it and you go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Nice. And then the movie keeps moving, and I just like that they did that. There's definitely some argument with King Shark. You know, on one hand, it's a bummer that they made him like a goof, like he's like the bit. But he also has some really good moments where he does crazy shit. And he's also got some heart to his character too. So while he is reduced to a bit in some points, I think it's kind of redeemed. Is it like my ideal interpretation of King Shark? No. But it was funny, and it was Sylvester Stallone doing the voice, which I gotta say, it was like 50-50. Sometimes you couldn't even tell it was Sly. But when you could, you're like, oh, okay, wow, that's crazy that they made him say that. Also, can we just say, like, my boy Calendar Man showed up for like a minute, and I knew that he was going to be in the movie. Like, someone found him in the trailer or something. I was so excited. For some reason, I should have expected this, but he's just in it for like a second. But like, you have a character like that, and then of course you're also dealing with Harley Quinn, who is like the tornado through all these DC movies. I actually thought they could have done a little more with her, but what we did get with her was pretty cool. A really cool action scene, some really funny moments, of course. Like, Margot Robbie like kills it. Now, while it's not teasing or building an epic universe or doing anything crazy like that, it does still have respect for some DC stuff. While some things are reduced to bits or they're changed a little bit, most of it works. And then you even have stuff like Amanda Waller, who is just like comics, everything, like an incredible character, just amazing. And I thought she was pretty well done in the previous Suicide Squad movie, and they carry that over here and they make her even more hardcore and Amanda Waller as hell, but they put her surrounded in a situation in an office type setting where it's all light and dumb and goofy like the rest of the movie. So it's like they take Amanda Waller, like the Amanda Waller, and plop her in just dumb James Gunn universe, and it actually works just because Viola Davis, I guess, is just so good. But I'm talking about the characters. I'm talking about like the heart and how there are some emotions and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, with how it's paced so fast, it's just a mindless, fun action movie that's super entertaining. From a really good opening to just tons of gore all over the place, but like gore in some really cool ways. Like, we've all seen over the top gore 1,000 times by now, but some of the way they do some kills and some of the way they do some things here is just like, wow, I haven't really seen that on screen like that before. I've seen that in a video game, haven't seen that in a movie, and that was nice. So you have all that. You have the good action scenes and the good joke scenes, like all of that just moving constantly forward. But the thing I really ended up appreciating about this movie too is that a lot of parts of it, like, there's CGI everywhere, of course, but there were a lot of moments in this movie where it just felt like a bunch of characters in dumb costumes on a movie set. And there's something about that escapism, that like old schoolness that just, it really worked for me, and that made me enjoy the movie even more. So there's all of that, and then there's, of course, I think what the other good mission statement of this movie is for some comics people is that it's like, well, hey, you person that really loves that character that nobody else loves, well, you got him in a movie once. Here you go. The fact that this movie does take a lot of characters that have like a 2-paragraph Wikipedia page and make them into something a little more, or they don't, they just immediately wipe them off the screen. Either way, it was cool to see go down. It was just different. Is this like my favorite, most memorable superhero movie ever? No. Is this like my favorite DC movie? No, I don't think so. But I think this is just a good, entertaining movie that I have no real problems with. It just is. It's its own thing. It's a creative, cohesive vision that totally worked. And honestly, I'm just glad I'm paying for HBO Max. That's not sponsored or anything, but it was nice. If this movie can happen, if they can have a movie, a Suicide Squad movie after another one came out and was critically bombed, if they can just put out another one, spend more money on it, have crazier characters, half of them which are like at the bottom of the DC Wikipedia page, and it be entertaining, like anything can happen now. And all of that from, like I said from the beginning, a movie with the confidence to not care. But not care in like a good way, like in like a way that's like respectful to movie fans, action fans, and comic fans for the most part. Obviously, I recommend it if you just like fun, dumb stuff, if you like comedy, if you like comic books, anything really. If you're into this stuff, if you're even watching this video, chances are you probably checked it out. I definitely recommend it. Now let's talk spoilers. A couple things come to mind, really. The big Starro action scene, of course, at the end was absolutely crazy. I like that they went there. I like that they had the Thinker. I like that they had the Thinker, like, walking into a bar in a South American country just to like, it's just like stupid things like that throughout the movie. Also the fact that they let Harley Quinn have sex with a random dude and then murder him. I thought that was good. I think before that, it kind of came to a screeching halt with this guy talking about like, building up like a story or whatever, and then she just killed him. But then the other moment where things slowed down on the bus, with all the characters talking and, a Bloodsport talking about his daughter, Ratcatcher doing her whole thing with her father. For it to be revealed as Taika Waititi was really cool because obviously he's like a fan favorite, and that whole thing, that whole build with her and then with Bloodsport and her holding him and kind of keeping him safe from the rats, all of that really worked in a movie that only spent so much time to build that stuff up. Then you just have the other big heart moment for me was when they killed Rick Flag, which by the time he died, I was like, wait, I actually like this interpretation of Rick Flag. I think it's good, especially in this one, like he gets the yellow shirt. Besides that, like I'm like, oh wait, I've gotten to kind of know him and understand him as, straight shooter, general guy, but it worked. Also, I think I want to point out for a second, I like Joel Kinnaman. I do. I feel like he was written off with that group of like, mid to late 2000s, just like regular old plain generic white dudes that were kind of written off as like not really exciting enough to be leads, but they tried, people like Sam Worthington, who I also still really like, Jai Courtney, not the biggest fan of, that guy who did John Carter of Mars, and Joel Kinnaman. Like they all tried to make these guys leading men, and it never really stuck, but Joel Kinnaman I really like. I really do. Maybe it was because he played RoboCop in that remake that like wasn't the worst thing in the world. But I don't know. That was just a tangent that you didn't ask for that I just went on. But again, really excited for the Peacemaker show, and that showdown behind them was really good. But I'm also curious to see where they're going to go with this show, because Peacemaker, of course, is revealed to live, where I found myself going, oh, maybe they're going to go back and it's just going to be Peacemaker missions, just him doing random shit, fighting for liberty or freedom or peace or whatever. All those moments, all those jokes, the Dick's joke was so funny. Not every joke in this movie landed for me. There was a couple that I was just like, all right, that sounds like a 40-year-old writing for a 25-year-old. But besides that, most of it was really, really good. And the John Cena Peacemaker stuff, just also a really, really good Harley Quinn action scene. I looked over to my wife Amanda and we were like, was this like Birds of Prey was good, but like, do you remember any really crazy Harley Quinn action scenes like this one? I couldn't. I was like, wow, this is really sick. It was a little like John Wicky. I also, like, as she was like kind of ballerinaing around shooting everybody, I was like, wow, they figured that out. I wish she was like cackling and laughing the whole time, but that's like a minor nitpick. Really, really, really good scene. And I guess also it's worth highlighting the opening. The opening's really good, but they also just killed everyone. And that was something that I saw coming from a mile away. It doesn't lessen it at all, but I definitely was like, there's no way this movie's gonna have all these characters. The whole thing with the beach and stuff, like I knew people were gonna get wiped out. I didn't know to that extent, but it was really cool. I didn't know they were gonna do it. Like the whole entire A team got wiped out, and then it's the B squad. The movie's about them. It's like, wow. But that's where it's good for some people, where it's like, hey, you really like that character? Like, hey, are you 40 years old and you remember reading this story of this random comic book character that you found in a bargain bin, and you love them so much, and they're your favorite character, and you always wanted them to have their moment in a big movie in all their glory in a costume? Well, there you go. You got them for 2 minutes, and then they got their head blown off. It's good shit. It's just good shit. I don't know. Like, again, like I said in the earlier part of the video, I wish King Shark was a little bit more King Sharky, but still really good. Also, they just made Calendar Man like a mean bully. He just called someone a pussy. Not very Calendar Man of you, but whatever. And the way it ended, it was like, cool. That could just, you know, whatever. All right, it set up a Peacemaker show, but other than that, cool. Fun adventure. You know, we don't know where Harley Quinn's going. We don't know what she's going to do. Doesn't matter. We don't know what Bloodsport's going to do. Doesn't matter. We don't know what King Shark's going to do. We don't know anything about these characters, like what's going to happen next. This was just an adventure, and it was fun, and that's it. Again, it was the confidence and the not caring that I really found refreshing. I really, really like DC's thing that they've been doing for a couple of years now, which is just like, focus on trying to make a good movie. We build something second, if we even want to. I found that really nice, and even here with Suicide Squad, felt like they made a movie, and then after they started cutting the movie together, they were like, oh shit, this Peacemaker stuff is gonna be good. And then they added that after credits scene where he lives, and now we're getting that, where it's natural. More entertaining, ridiculous, over-the-top stuff like this that doesn't care, please. But also, James Gunn's good at walking the line with not like shitting on characters too much that we love. If we can keep that line perfectly like that, I'd be okay. I know people that are still personally so mad about the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. But anyway, Suicide Squad. I definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think. Also, shout out to you guys who've had my back on Patreon or YouTube Join. You guys probably got access to this video early, so thank you. Thank you for supporting me. But whoever you are, thanks for watching. I definitely want to hear what you think about this movie. Who's your favorite character? Even if it was a character that didn't show up for too long. Who did you love the most? What moment did you love the most? Are you like me? Did you really like the big Harley Quinn action scene? How do you feel about King Shark? I think there's a lot to be said about this movie. Do you like the confidence? Do you like the not caring, or do you wish it cared more? I don't know. Let's talk. I want to hear from you. If you had fun with me and you like what I'm doing here, what I'm trying to do here is just talk about stuff I love and have some fun. Clicking the like button's all you got to do, because it legit helps this channel, so thank you. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for hanging out, listening to me ramble. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.